So this is my current router table. It's not the greatest piece of equipment in the world, but it works, and it cost essentially nothing to build because it's pretty much built from old scrap bits of wood that I had lying around.
The main section of the table here is just an old cupboard door that I found in the house when I moved in. It's actually a really nice piece of ply. It's 18mm with some sort of high pressure laminate on it. So yeah, that's actually quite a nice piece of wood, and the good thing about it was pretty flat when I got it. It was slightly bowed, and so under here it's all thoroughly screwed down, and under here is some shims that just bend it absolutely dead level, and then I routed out to accept the router lift. So I just made a jig for that, and these are actually the lines I used for laying out the jig to route out the hole for this. That was actually quite a difficult job to get that a nice tight fit, and there is a tiny lip, there's maybe 1/2mm lip here, which when I come to make a proper table I'm going to make sure that I don't get that lip. This extension section is literally just an extension section. It's deliberately set slightly lower than the main table, and it's just an orbit desk. The base is part of an old wardrobe that next door neighbour gave us, and this used to be a really large drawer. But what I did was I took the hinges, cause there was a section that sat on top, and I took the hinges off the door for that and fitted them to the bottom of the drawer, and then took out the inside of the drawer so that I've got a section in here. Now this side could be used for storage, but in here is where the router lift lives, and that gives you just enough height for the router to go all the way to the bottom. It is actually, I could do with it being a little bit lower, because I'm a bit concerned if I do put the router all the way to the bottom it will suck up some dust, because you do unfortunately get a little bit of the dust, a bit of the chippings do collect in there. But yeah, that works quite well. I put this baffle in the middle to ensure that basically that you get a better vacuum in this section of the box. The smaller you can make this area, the better the suction's going to be. You have to be a little bit careful as well about sealing the door at any front, because obviously you want your vacuum extractor or your dust extractor to suck down through this hole typically. So any air that gets in through here is going to reduce the suction there. So what I've done is I've fitted strips of wood inside to improve the seal around the door, and all inside, all under here and all around here, I've put silicone sealant to stop the air getting in. So when this device is running, I mean, you can see there's no catch on the door, but when the vacuum's on, this door is held firmly shut. There is a bit of air leakage around it. It's not as good as it could be, but it's good enough. I'm going to just show you down here where I put the power in, and a bit of a close-up of the inside of the router area. So obviously I need to get power in to the router, and this is the idea that I came up with for that. I think this is quite a nice solution to the problem. Now typically on a router table what you want is a 0-volt release switch. What that means is if power is cut to the router, it won't come back on. The switch will disengage. So if you've got a power cut, or if you forget that you've left the router on, when you go to plug it back in again it won't start automatically. I don't have a 0-volt release switch at the minute, but I will be fitting one to my final router table when I build it. But this is what I've got at the minute. And what you can do, well, you can see I've drilled a hole under there and push the plug head through, and then just that closes down over the wire. Now you do get a little bit of air leakage through here, but like with the front door, when the vacuum is on, that is held very firmly tight. You probably couldn't lift that open when the vacuum's on. You can just about pull the door open because you've got a handle. So there you go, and then you just go and plug that in, and off you go. Right, so there's the inside of the router table. You can see I've been routing a bit of
plywood, and you can see that I do get some dust collecting on the inside, pretty much where you'd expect, up in the corners, and along this edge. It's always along this edge. I think maybe the air leaking through the power hole is enough to draw the dust away, or possibly air leaks through here as well. But yeah, so it collects up the corners where the air moves most slowly. You can just, at the back there, you can see the extraction port where the air goes out, and that's a 100mm drain pipe connection. And you can see I've got it going into a 4-inch connection from a dust extractor at the moment. But yeah, that works well. All the holes are, all the edges are sealed with silicone, as I said, and it's all siliconed around the extraction port. You can see as well I've bolted that on. So what I did was, because that back is only maybe 4mm of ply, so I bolted on a thicker section of wood in order to receive the extraction port. But I'll show you the back now. So there you go, that's the back. As you can see, it's just a regular drainage connector, 100mm drainage connector, and then I've got it going into the extractor pipe, the flexible hose. Unfortunately, they're slightly different sizes, as I'm sure all woodworkers know. But a bit of cloth in there is perfectly good for a seal, and of course when it's under vacuum it sucks the cloth in, and that's it. You've got a good tight seal. You have to fit a strengthening plate to the back, otherwise you wouldn't get a good seal. This would just pull free. But as you can see now, with the strengthening plate on there, that's good and solid.
Right, so onto the fence. The front of the fence is a piece of oak laminate flooring, solid wood oak laminate flooring. It's got probably a polyurethane spray finish on it, which means it's lovely and smooth, and being engineered wood, it is perfectly flat. It is, well, easily flat enough for any woodwork that you'd want to do. The back of the fence is made of some MDF, which I had lying around. I just cut this with the circular saw. I used the mitre saw to make some perfectly square blocks that hold the face square to the base. I checked that the base and the face piece were fairly flat before I started working. They're flat enough. Initially I built just the face and the base of the fence, but after using the fence for a while I realised I needed some extraction through the fence, which is why I added this part. So the dust extraction port is built much like the rest of the fence. It's just a couple of mitre blocks with a face piece over it that I've screwed down rather than glued, so that I can access in there for servicing if I need to. This is just a piece of 50mm drain pipe. I've got an adapter that I can attach to here so that I can extract using a vacuum cleaner or something like that, rather than my main dust extractor, because if I want through the table extraction and through the fence extraction, then I find I don't get enough suction with both of them going. So typically this needs a different suction device attached to it, but that's easy. You know, you can either stick your vacuum hose in it and then just pad around like I do for the back extraction port, or just build an adapter onto there. I think on my final table I'll make it easier to attach this to the 100mm as well, because it would be nice to be able to run just a single dust extraction, but it works pretty well as is. When it comes to fence adjustment for router tables, there's two options. You can either fit parallel tracks, which allow you to move the whole fence forwards and backwards in parallel with the router insert, or you can use the pivoting method. And I chose to use the pivoting method because, quite frankly, it's simple. So what I've done is in my tabletop, I've drilled some 8mm holes. I think they look about 50mm spaced. It doesn't really matter though. This is more convenient. You could use just a single hole, but a series of holes is probably a little bit easier. Then I drilled a hole down through the bottom of my fence, again at 8mm, and all I've done is just pushed an 8mm drill bit through. As you can see, I've drilled 2 holes, and if you space these at 40mm and these at 50mm, then you get even more adjustment. But to be honest, I've only found I've needed that 1 hole and these 2 holes in the tabletop. I could imagine needing some further out. If I was say dadoing, doing a very wide dado, I might need some of these back holes, possibly. It's unlikely, to be honest, that just these 2 and that 1 are probably all you need. Now, what you do there, and then all you do is just drop your drill bit. So your drill bit protrudes very slightly through the bottom of your fence, and then you just, this is the awkward bit, you've got to try and line it up with a hole. There's a hole in there somewhere. There you go. Right, so it's down in a hole now, and so your fence now pivots about that point. And all you do is on this side, down here, you clamp the fence. So you just got a regular G-clamp or something, and you just clamp it down here, and that then sets the distance across here. If you need to adjust it, just slacken off the clamp slightly and just tap that, and you can get an amazingly accurate setting here, because basically your accuracy is being multiplied by that distance. So if you move it 1mm at this end, so you just draw a line here, and then if you just tap that back 1mm, you're probably adjusting it 0.5mm or less at this point. And the greater the distance between your pivot and the point that you're adjusting, the greater your accuracy can be. There is a tiny bit of play in that, and in my final version, it'll probably be an aluminium plate, and I'll do something to harden these so they're a much better pivot point. But yeah, so all you do is you move your fence forwards and backwards. Now the problem here, of course, is as your fence moves down here, you're reducing this distance for your table, which is why I've got a series of holes running along here, because if you really needed, on this hole, if you needed a really wide cut, then so a great distance between here, you've got almost no distance or no table available down here. So in that case, you just move it to a hole further back, and then you're keeping your fence almost parallel to your router insert. But yeah, this works absolutely brilliantly, and I'm definitely going to go for this method when I build my final table. It's worked an absolute treat, better than I can imagine. I've seen other people where they clamp at both ends, but don't do it. Just drill a couple of holes and get yourself a pivot point. It really works. So unfortunately, look at that. First time I used the router insert, I managed to scratch the finish on it. How frustrating. Anyway, the final feature is an adjustable fence. So I've got, as you saw, I've got a couple of wing nuts there, and I can just open it. I can open the fence up, and then that's my extraction port. That I had to cut that after the fact, after the fence was built, which has left it a bit of a raggedy hole, but it's not too bad. I made it that big because it's basically the largest router bit that I could ever fit in there. That is one slight downside of the pivot option is, as you can see here, it overlaps slightly. So you've got to be a bit careful. What you want is one of the holes to put the fence parallel to your router bit, to the hole, to where your router bit comes through. So draw a straight line through here, and then move it back, and then so your fence is parallel to your router insert on the forwardmost hole. If that makes any sense, just draw it out, and you'll see why that's necessary. To be honest, I can't see me ever actually using a router bit that big. That would be some sort of panel raising bit. It's a real meaty bit. I never use anything bigger than this, so that's absolutely fine. But what you can do is, of course, close that right up nice and tight, and then so you can close that right up nice and tight, So you've only got the minimal amount of bit showing, and you get the best suction through there possible. I have actually got an idea for zero clearance inserts, which I'm going to build into my next table. Basically just route channels down here so I can slide in a piece of scrap wood and make a zero clearance insert. So there you go, that's my router table. I hope you like it. It's done me proud so far. It's been going about 2 years now, but hopefully by the end of summer this year I should have a new one built, which will be even better.
Thanks for watching, subscribe for more workshop videos, and don't forget to share and like. If you have any thoughts or suggestions, please leave a comment below. Bye till next time.